Okay, so I want to talk now about wisdom. As I said about happiness, I feel that wisdom and happiness are byproducts of good choices. So how do we make good choices? That's a tough question. I think it has to do with habit, and it has to do with the values that you were raised with. I've seen good people make poor choices, and that can be heartbreaking to watch. And I've also, of course, made poor choices. So where do we learn the wisdom to make good choices? Where Shall Wisdom Be Found is the name of a book by Harold Bloom, who passed away recently. He was a literary critic. Wisdom can be found in stories. For me, stories are one of the greatest repositories of wisdom, because they don't tell you what to do or what not to do. For example, there's a certain kind of practical wisdom to the advice, look both ways before you cross the road. But that's more about prudence and being careful. But wisdom is a much richer concept. People would relate wisdom to spirituality. I'm trying to better understand the concept of spirituality, and so I'm careful about using it for myself. The definition of spirituality that I've been using until recently has to do with the integration of the self, and by that I mean all dimensions: thinking, feeling, the body. And how can we bring these into a state of wholeness and balance? When I look around me, I see a lot of imbalance in the world. I see a lack of integration, I see a lot of fear. And of course, I see all these things in myself as well. My life is not as balanced as I would like it to be. It does have a lot of balance, but greater balance is an aspiration. And for me, spending my first and formative years in India, I've been influenced by Hinduism and Buddhism in the sense that I feel that equilibrium is a really important notion, which is another way to say balance. My father was a Catholic, and my mother, I don't know whether she would identify as Anglican or not, but growing up we went to the Anglican church twice a year for Christmas and Easter. And I could never quite understand the concept of original sin. To this day I don't understand it. One way to talk about it may be, I'm not a theologian, but it seems to me that Buddhism and Hinduism contain the ideas that there's a lot of suffering in life. For Christianity and so in the tradition that I was brought up, that had to do with Genesis and breaking the rules that God set for Adam and Eve. But that was never a good enough explanation for me as to what exactly was sinful here. Should human beings be condemned for all time to suffering just because somebody ate an apple? Adam and Eve ate an apple from a forbidden tree. And I know that Jesus is meant to be a redemptive figure so that we don't have to suffer. But I had a hard time believing in the exceptionality of one human being, that one human being could be God, or could be the Son of God. I actually never understood the difference between saying Jesus is God and Jesus is the Son of God. I understand that he was the Son of God because Mary was the mother of God. But as I got older and started to trust science more, it became hard for me to continue to believe that one human being, rather than the billions of human beings that live and have lived, that one human being should have this exceptional power and be able to perform acts that are beyond scientific explanation and therefore called miracles. So I became agnostic. For a while I would have identified as an atheist, but then I became humbler and I felt that I really don't know whether the universe is a larger intelligence than human beings. Because every so often I see synchronicity, like remarkable coincidences, which make me think that there's a larger plan or pattern here that I can't see. And that's a very lovely and comforting feeling, and I can understand why so many people want to believe in an afterlife, especially an afterlife that involves justice for the things we did right and the things we did wrong, quotation right and wrong, on the earth, which only some higher power can know. So I really understand the need for faith and for believing in a larger, higher power, a larger intelligence, and order behind all the disorder and randomness and suffering. But I was drawn to Buddhism because there were no beliefs involved, no doctrines, and it was a very empirical religion. It was experimental. You try out some ideas that are being offered and see if they work for you. It's pragmatic. So the Buddhist account of suffering is that it comes from attachment. And when we're attached to a particular outcome and that doesn't happen, it's hard for us to let go. So I understood that way of explaining suffering, and it made a lot of sense to me. So I've been really informed by Buddhism and find Buddhism to be, it has for me been the most resonant and the most wise of the religious teachings. But I've also looked to art, to psychoanalysis, to philosophy, to literature, to music for wisdom and understanding. And in the videos to come I hope to go deeper into these areas. But I started off talking about story. A story can move us to tears. And I feel as if wisdom is about connection. So for example, today I heard a very moving talk at my place of spiritual community. And afterwards I went to the speaker and told her that I was very moved. And I didn't get enough sleep last night, so I was feeling really tired. But this person was so open to me, so open-hearted and embracing. I told them that what they had said had resonated for me because of issues in my personal life, just as she had disclosed about her personal life in her talk. And she literally embraced me. She opened her arms and we hugged, and I felt connected. And we exchanged some words because she was launching her book, and there was a line forming. but we spoke for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and I felt so connected, felt heard. I think she felt heard as well, and the fatigue just fell away from me. And I believe that that's the essence of what we're all looking for, and it takes different forms, what I'm calling connection. It's a kindling of the life energy, sparking of that energy, so that we come alive. We literally have more energy when we feel this connection that's genuine and authentic. So, what is wisdom? I believe, like for me, wisdom has to do with connection. Yeah. Wisdom is not about prudence and guarding yourself, protecting yourself from fear. Wisdom is not about protection. Wisdom is about health, wholeness, balance, integration. There's a slowness to wisdom, a capaciousness, and all of these, I feel, lead to connection. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for listening.